What about anime and manga today keeps you a fan compared to when you first discovered it with Tokyo Ghoul?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it changed for me. I think it's like, in part, I love the psychological thriller genre. I feel like it's cathartic, and it's like I get to focus on someone else's problems besides my own.
And I like seeing people work through those problems as well.
Yeah.
If you think of Tokyo Ghoul, for example,
Oh, yeah.
I was in a pretty dark spot in my life when I discovered Tokyo Ghoul, and it was a period of time where I was actually very disillusioned with anime and manga. I actually left the community for a few years at that point,
Oh,
but the only series that I stuck with during my sabbatical was Tokyo Ghoul. Kaneki and everything that he went through, even though it was very bombastic and fantasy
yeah.
based, I felt it. I understood what it was like to have changes to you that you didn't necessarily want, but you have to deal with, and now you're coping with responsibilities that are outside what you're able to deal with, and even encountering loss after loss after loss, but still powering through because you have a goal in mind and you want to help people and you want to save people. I think Tokyo Ghoul is one of the standout series when it comes to
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and I absolutely love what the series did. What did you love about Tokyo Ghoul, and how do you think it's affected you at all?
I think what I love most is that the idea that you're able to overcome tragedy. And like Kaneki was abused by his mother and I think his aunt, and he went through all this hardship. I think it's amazing that he was able to have supportive friends and find love and not just be like this broken, damaged person. Well, he still had issues, but he was able to have a happy end. And I think that's kind of hopeful, and that's a good message to have. And it's nice to be able to, even if you have I don't want to get too dark here.
Please
But
feel free
even
to.
if you've gone through like rough patches, that you aren't damaged goods and that you're able to find friends, you're able to have healthy relationships. I think that's a good message to take away in real life.
Do you think that Tokyo Ghoul, and despite the controversy it had with its adaptation, that it inspired the darker turn that manga has had over the last 5 to 7 years?
I would say even Tokyo Ghoul is not the first of its kind. I would say that Tokyo Ghoul kind of takes inspiration also from Parasite. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah,
So
that was
I
one of
would,
my first series. Love it.
yes, that's a good one too. I would say that just in general, that people like exploring darker supernatural stories.
But it's strange because it wasn't always like this. There were plenty of dark fantasy during 90s and the 2000s, and 2010, 2008 to 2010, I feel was at that point when people started really paying attention to that, and you saw a lot of dark fantasy come out that were very interesting. I think Tokyo Ghoul was, it's not the best series in the world, but it definitely stood apart from other series at the time that were running. Another dark fantasy that people appreciate that is very popular is obviously Attack on Titan. And
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
what's your viewpoint on AOT?
I stopped reading it after my favorite character died. But I do think that because I feel like sometimes it did border on the torture porn territory with all the dying and deaths. However, I do think it explores trauma in a meaningful way.
That I can agree with. I think I liked how Tokyo Ghoul showcased that more, and I think even like with the art in the manga, it was so chaotic at times, but I really felt the darkness of it, like especially with
Yeah.
Ri, and I felt that like other dark fantasy from that time, they didn't necessarily keep up that sort of feel throughout the duration of its run. Even with AOT, like you said, like there were moments when it kind of felt like, okay, I get it. I grew up on Saw. I understand. I saw Hostel. I know what you're trying to do. I know how you're trying to set this up. But
Like
also,
shock value.
yeah, and it's like I guess that was the era. Like it kind of feels like the era, but at the same time, like now that Tokyo Ghoul is kind of it's having like a lasting effect, even though it's been a while since the series has ended and AOT is now ending. I'm starting to see dark fantasy come down a little bit, and it's something I hope it sticks around a little bit longer, because I do feel there were a lot of great series that came out during this time that were dark fantasy series, and I want to see more series like Tokyo Ghoul. But the thing
Oh
is that
yeah.
while there are some good dark fantasy series, I don't know if we'll ever have one that affects us the same way that Tokyo Ghoul and Re did.
For me, Tokyo Ghoul is like my favorite manga, so I'm biased. I'm looking for something to compare to it, but we'll see. Oh, Berserk as well.
Yeah, so what else do you love about Tokyo Ghoul? And we'll move on to some other series after. But like, considering you've covered different aspects of the series on your channel as well, what stands out to you about the series, and how would you recommend it to somebody who's heard about it but was never interested in watching?
I think just Ashida Sui does an amazing job at like I think I might call it like visual allegory, visual metaphors, like depicting like anxiety and sadness. Just the way he's able to draw and convey that is remarkable. So if you're looking for like an emotionally driven series with really believable characters, definitely pick up Tokyo Ghoul.
That's a good sell.
Yeah.
You mentioned Berserk.
Yes.
What draws you to that series?
Darkness. And also it's the same as Tokyo Ghoul. Like even though it's like a really gory and dark and dreary series at times, it's amazing that Guts is able to find like this support group and he's able to find love and happiness again. And he wrestles with his own beast of darkness. So it's like his own interpersonal trauma and demons.
I love that. And I also love that when Guts takes damage, that sticks with him. Like, well, for the most part, but seeing a character literally lose himself limb from limb, and he's doing it because he's protecting those that he loves, embracing an armor that gives him back his capabilities and expands on them, but it's still taking away from him. It's like Guts is slowly becoming the things and the people that he was fighting against. He's becoming that, but at what cost? Because he's still retaining his humanity, which Griffith didn't. But at the same time, Griff has his beauty, and Guts is wearing the scars, and he's wearing all of the load that it takes to survive in this world and to stay alive and keep his friends alive and to get revenge. Like, and I don't even know if it's a revenge story anymore. Like, I want Berserk to end properly, and obviously with
Yeah.
the death of the mangaka, it's still up in the air, but there were so many aspects of that story that I really appreciated. And like you said, the darkness about it, it was so interesting. You want to see this person come through the darkness, but are they going to
Oh
do
yeah.
it by following into the light or embracing that darkness themselves?
I actually, if I were to write the ending to Berserk, I would actually like to see Guts not kill Griffith. I don't want him to take revenge. I want him to take the higher road, and I just kind of want Griffith to watch Is it Falconia crumble? It's like the Ozymandias poem about this ancient king just watching his kingdom crumble and all his dreams disappear. So that would be the end for Griffith, I think. And I just want Casca and Guts to be happy together. Like a happy ending
Do you think
for
that would be
them.
more devastating to Griffith to see everything that he aspired to get and everything he sacrificed to get there fall around him, and then not at least fall to revenge? It's like, at least
Yeah.
let me have that, Guts. Like, you were my best friend and I threw you away and you won't even take back your revenge.
Oh, yeah. I think that would hurt him because if Guts is still obsessed with Griffith, he's still paying attention to him. So that's like the ultimate middle finger to him.
I really do hope we get like some sort of ending. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sure the
yeah.
series won't end. This is a Japanese national treasure, one of the greatest written stories of all time, if you ask me. I think we'll look back at Berserk the same way we look back at Lord of the Rings and
Oh yeah, I was about
Game
to
of
actually
Thrones.
mention Lord of the Rings. It's like a foundational dark fantasy, gritty fantasy manga.
Exactly. I won't be surprised if my nephews who love anime now are getting ready to go to the theater when the Berserk live action movie comes out, and there may be like a Netflix live action adaptation. I do feel it's one of those stories that it's so strong and it's got so much popularity that it's going to be enduring. It's going to be something that's going to be within the culture of fantasy forever.
Well, it's already influenced so many stories. Like, I'm obsessed with Bloodborne and Demon Souls and all that. So it influenced a lot of the character designs, and even I think in Castlevania, one of the characters, like Berserker armor, was based off of Gut. So it's already has this enduring, lasting influence.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And also something to consider is that like it's been around for so many decades.
Oh yeah, is it like 30 years? It's been a long time.
Yeah, more than
Yeah.
30 years, but yeah, like 30.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, 30 years. Yeah, 30 years. I love Berserk. Probably shouldn't have been reading it as young as I was, but Berserk
Oh.
was also, along with Parasite, it was during an era
Yeah.
where I was picking up whatever was being translated and brought overseas, and like finding random volumes at the library, asking my uncle to sneak me an issue of something, so like my mom won't see, but like I'll read chapters of like this really mature
Stealth
series.
reading.
Oh yeah, totally. I think a lot of people, just because Berserk has gotten more popular over the last 15 years, they forget that like this was a long running series that had
Oh
so
yeah.
much to it. Such a great series.